everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Refuge Church podcast. I'm David. I'm the pastor of the West Campus here, and it's always a great honor to bring in members of our staff and leadership and highlight them for all the great work they do for Refuge. Today, I have the privilege and honor of bringing in our men's ministry leader, Bill Vacco. How you doing today, Bill?
Hey, I'm good. Thank you, Pastor David.
I'm glad to have you here, and I love that you're supporting the seal of everything you do, and not only in the hoodie but also in the hat.
Yeah, I guess I didn't even realize. I do that more than I don't.
One of Jonesboro's finest. After coming off, we just came off a deluge where we had to start building arks to get ready for the storms that we had. Everybody recovering well? Everybody feeling good?
Yeah, I think so. Everybody got their rest and their naps and ready for another shift tomorrow. So.
Yeah, when things like that happen, as a firefighter, as well as everything else you do, which is endless things, it's amazing how much you work for our community. But when tragedy happens, do you get energized to go help, or is it more of like a sense of urgency of, ooh, what is this? But I know I have to do it. Like, what's your feeling when you go into stuff like that?
Just wanting to help. I mean, that's what we do. You just. Mm-hmm. You always say you don't want anything bad to happen, but if something is going to happen, I want to be there to help. So.
Right. Yeah, I just know that people respond to things differently. Like, there's a sense of obligation, or there are people that are like thrill seekers. Oh yeah, I get to go do something. Yeah. So I just didn't know what your feel on that was. But yeah, that fits your personality completely. Well, again, Bill, like I said, we do these episodes to highlight the great people that God has called to our church and all the stuff they do. So, but let's start the story as well as where every good story starts, and that's at the beginning. Bill, where were you born?
I was born right outside of Chicago, just right outside the south side of the city. So
Reds, White Sox, Cubs?
No, Cubs.
Uh-huh.
South side is the White Sox, but I was a Cubs fan. So
gotcha. And how long did you live in Chicago?
So it was a town called Evergreen Park there on the south side until I believe I was 7 or 8.
Okay.
With my parents, and then my parents got divorced and both got remarried. So then we moved with my mom and my stepdad to another suburb about 30 minutes away, a little bit further west, and lived there till I was 16.
Wow.
And in between my sophomore and junior year of high school,
wow,
my mom and my stepdad decided to move to Mountain Home. So that's how I ended up here in Arkansas.
So you're one of the few members here at Refuge that's a leader that did not grow up in the South or in Arkansas. So so describe the childhood of growing up in Illinois.
It was good. It was obviously when I moved here at 16, it was a bit of a culture shock, but I look back at my childhood and it was a good time. It was kind of the stereotypical, the movie The Sandlot, where
oh yeah, you got one of my favorite movies.
I think about, especially when we moved to the other suburb there in Plainfield, and we had a small subdivision, and there was a group of us kids, and it was all day every day, whether it was playing wiffle ball or baseball or basketball, or in the wintertime, going to one of the fields where there was a pond that froze, and, playing hockey, and, wherever all the bicycles were, the parents knew that's where the kids were. And, you just stayed out till dark, and the parents didn't worry about you, and you came home, and it was just, it was a good time. I had a good childhood as far as, friends and things like that go.
Was sports like a passion for you, or what?
Yeah,
okay. Yeah. So growing up, how much of it was like encouraged by your parents, or how much of it was I just left house and that's what I did?
My dad was a big baseball fan, and he was a big baseball player when he was younger. So, obviously his love for baseball, I think, is where I got my love. Baseball was my big sport, and then, like I said, just hanging out with friends and things like that. And that's just what we all did. And, whatever the weather was, we just adapted to, whatever sport that was, we were going to do. So. Now,
when you play baseball, what position did you always want to play?
I always played the outfield because I was a speedy little kid. And
okay, center field, left field, right field,
all of it.
What did you? You're right-handed, right?
Yes.
So, did you prefer right field?
Nah, I just wherever I could play. I just enjoyed playing.
Okay. Well, now in terms of the family dynamic and playing and the sports life and all of that, talk about schooling in Chicago and schooling in Illinois. What was it like growing up and going to school?
I mean, it was like anywhere else. When we lived there in that first area, there on the south side, and I lived there till third grade. You know, me and my brother walked to school, and you know, and then when we moved to this other suburb, it was, you know, taking the bus. And
Okay.
After it was the summer between 8th grade and freshman year of high school, and this could be a whole nother story, but we had a pretty bad tornado hit our town and destroyed our high school. So
Wow.
at the beginning of high school, my freshman and sophomore year, we actually went, because our high school was destroyed, we had to go to another school in another town. So it was probably about a 45-minute to an hour bus ride there and back every day.
Wow.
So that was, you know, that kind of changed things a little bit, and it was a little rougher.
Do you look back now and wonder if that tragedy had any influence on what you do now?
I don't know. I never really thought about that, but possibly, yeah.
Like, did you like build any relationship with any relief workers or storm people? And like, I admire them. I love what they're doing.
No, not really. Not that I can, you know, think of any one specific incident.
Okay.
There's just so much going on that, you know, it was just all over anywhere you went and everything you saw for quite a while.
Gotcha. So growing up with your childhood in Illinois and the family life and everything you had, was church a regular part of your childhood? What was your church life like?
So I pretty much say it was not.
Okay.
I grew up, my family was Catholic, but with having a split family, and my dad had visitation with us on Sundays, and pretty much went to church on Christmas and Easter.
Okay.
Did the catechism classes and you know, and all that, but no, we didn't go to church, you know, every Sunday. And
Okay. What about when you moved down here to Arkansas?
no, was not.
Okay.
When I look back at my teenage years, especially those when I moved to Arkansas, when I look at my freshman or my junior and senior high school, a lot of things I wish I could have changed. I was a pretty bitter kid because I always tell people I felt like I graduated 2 years early because all those friends that I had made and, you know, and everything else growing up, I left them you know, after my sophomore year.
Right.
And was, you know, mad at my parents for moving me and all that. So when I got, you know, there to Mountain Home, I had a couple close friends, but in my mind, I had already made up my mind that I was going to the military, and I just wanted to finish and get out of there. And so I kind of pushed a lot of people away, I think you could say, because I didn't want to get close to anybody else because I knew I was leaving in a couple of years. And
Okay.
You know, so yeah, the last 2 years of school weren't the greatest when I look back on them.
Gotcha. So describe that transition from high school into joining the armed forces. And what branch did you join? And thank you for your service in advance.
Thank you. Joined the Air Force. That's what like I said, I'd wanted to do. And so when I graduated, probably less than a year or so later after I graduated is when I actually went to basic training and did all that. And kind of, that was my first step out, into, I guess you'd call it freedom or whatever. But
How many years did you serve?
just a few. So I was a crew chief on F-16s. To be a 19, 20-year-old kid, having that opportunity to at that time work on a $30 million aircraft and, be in charge of repairs and, of overseeing that aircraft was a big responsibility. But, you can imagine for a kid that age, it was a pretty big ego boost.
Oh, absolutely.
Getting to travel around, on the government's dime and, to different places and see different things. And it was a great experience. I screwed that experience up. So, I ended up getting out a little bit early. It wasn't dishonorable or anything, but, again, another one of those things I look back and man, I wish I could have changed some things. So
I completely understand. In the process of all of that, where was God? Were you feeling any pull, any seeking, anything happening in your life that you look back now and like God was trying to get to me?
Not at all. I was an idiot, and I tell people that all the time. Like at that point, I was just no supervision, no, like I said, just 19, 20, 21 years old. Just I think I thought I owned the world and everything was owed to me, and relationship to relationship, and terrible with my money, just enjoying life, on the outside, but on the inside, it was a mess.
Gotcha. So talk about the events leading up to the moment when you did make that lifelong eternity-based decision.
So I'll try to not draw this out too much, but
you take all the time you need,
a big part of my testimony.
Please.
But I tell people a few years ago I read a book, and it's a book called Fly in the Wind by Lieutenant Colonel Dan Rooney, and he speaks of this process called synchronicity, and it's basically God's steps, and it's this omnipresent series of events, these small tiny things that places that God puts you in that leads to other things,
right,
that you may not even think of at the time. And it really got me to thinking, and I knew these things before, but when I sat down and wrote it all on paper, it's just crazy to think of how when I wasn't even looking for God, God was there and already guiding those steps. So I said I screwed up in the Air Force. They had these tests that you had to take in order to advance, and I was having too much fun. And I didn't take it as far as the study and things like that. I didn't take it serious. I was not to be, I don't know what the word is, but I was good at what I did as far as hands-on stuff. And that's the way I've always been. If you put it in my hands and I take it apart and I can put it back together. But if you try to read it to me or,
Gotcha.
Put it on paper.
You're a hands-on learner.
Right.
Yeah.
So I had trouble with those tests.
Understood.
But that's not an excuse, because when I look back at it, I didn't study, and that's what I should have done. So I failed that test, that advancement test. But because I had a good reputation with my leadership and everything else, and they knew that I knew what I was doing, and they were willing to fight for me. And, they said, hey, we can get you a waiver. You can keep on. At that time, I actually had orders to go to South Korea for a year. I was just a month or two away from that. And all this was going on. They were like, we'll get you your waiver. You're fine. But I had this ego, man. And it was just like everything. I had excuses for everything. It was never my fault.
Right.
I always,
I've been that guy.
It was always somebody else's fault. It was the military's fault.
I've been that guy, sir.
So almost instantly, I go from this job and this career and this, this Air Force that I love, to just blaming them for everything. And I felt like at that time that if I took that waiver and I admitted that I was admitting that I was a failure, and so I told them, no, I'll just get out.
Wow.
So that's what I did. I got out and ended up back in Mountain Home. And when I had left Mountain Home, a few years earlier, I said, I'll never be back. Like, I've made it, I'm this big, important.
And God heard you say that and went, let's watch this.
Right. So now I end up back in Mountain Home. I'm living at my mom's. I'm working as a grocery store stocker. So you can imagine the feelings and everything. Weeks ago here, I was launching these aircraft, these beautiful multi-million-dollar pieces of machinery.
Wow.
And now I'm stocking shelves, and nothing against anybody that works in retail, but it was just a big shot to my ego. But I was still a mess, still blaming everybody else, and just, like I said, going from whatever to whatever. And one day, I was on my lunch break, and I said, I was going to go get something to drink. So I left the grocery store, went across the street to Sonic in the drive-thru, go through, and to this day, all I wanted was a medium Sprite, right? And the girl working the drive-thru took my order, and she took my order and put the little phone down in the drive-thru, and she turned to one of the guys that was working inside and said something, hey, this guy in the drive-thru is cute, or something like that.
I think her exact words were, "He's hot." We have that on record, Rhonda. I have that on record.
I was trying to be nice.
I'm not.
So anyway, the guy that she turned to just happened to be one of the few friends that I had in high school.
This is so fun.
When I came up there, he's like, "Hey, this girl thinks you're hot or whatever." So I was like, "Well, get me your number."
That's awesome.
So here I go from just wanting, this medium Sprite to now I, ask this girl out, and everything I say about her is in, she knows that I tell my testimony, and she's good with me telling this story, but she was at a point where she had a baby at that time. Hannah was about 4 months old, and she had grown up in church, but she had gotten away. And when she had Hannah, she had made that promise to God that, she was going to get back. So when we started dating, she, let me know right away, like, hey, and at first I was against it. I was like, I don't want to do this, all this, but I quickly had fallen in love with her, and I'd, fallen in love with Hannah. And so I said, okay, let's give this church thing a try. So that's what we started doing. And our backgrounds were so different as far as, she grew up UPC and I grew up Catholic. So trying to find a happy medium, we would go to church that I thought I want to go to, and she'd be like, "What is this?" And then I would go to one, and she'd be like, "What is this?" And back and forth. But eventually, I think I've tried to think back, and I've done this quite a few times. I did not have that like instant or overnight like change. I look at mine, and I think it was more gradual.
Right. You had to be healed from so many things. It had to be. Yeah.
And I she took me to I don't know if you remember, but they used to have this production, this Heaven's Gates.
She talked about it when she was in here. Yeah.
So that was the night that I guess I made that decision. But I don't want to be, I'm happy that it happened, don't get me wrong, but I don't want to think that I was scared, into a relationship with God. But that was the first step.
And how old were you at this time?
I was 22, I believe.
Okay.
So yeah, and then so I don't want to get too far ahead, but I was talking about the synchronicity thing.
Yeah, please.
The way several things that how he worked in my life after that. So I have the medium Sprite, and I end up meeting Rhonda and Hannah. So I'm dating Rhonda now. I'm still working at the grocery store and still miserable. And this was probably about 6 months later. Because you got to understand, at that time, there's no internet, and there's, when you're trying to look for a job, it was look in the want ads and send out, mail.
Or you got to know somebody.
Right, mail out your resume, things like that. So job hunting was not easy.
Right.
And so one night, and I'll never forget, I was on aisle 3 at Harps stocking a case of tuna, and this guy and his wife walked by, and she was needing the empty boxes that I had. And I just had happened to notice he was wearing this pullover shirt, and it had the name of an aircraft company on it. And I gave her the box and, went back to my stocking, and something just kept telling me, like, you need to go talk to that guy. And this went on for probably 10 or 15 minutes in my head. So finally.
Now, is this post the Heaven's Gates Hell's Flame night where you?
Yes. Yeah.
So looking back, you felt Holy Spirit was talking to you.
Yeah. So I finally got up the courage, and I ended up finding them all the way at the other end of the store. And so I went up to him and said, "Hey, I saw your shirt, blah, blah, blah." And we talked for a couple minutes, and he asked me what I'd done, and I, told him about my past and all that. So he pulls out a business card, and he tells me his name, and he said, "I'm the owner of this company in Jonesboro at the airport." He said, "I'll be back in the office Monday. Give me a call, and we'll get you down there for an interview."
Awesome.
So called on Monday. Had my interview. I think I came down. I'd never been to Jonesboro. I didn't even know where Jonesboro was. I still remember I had at that time you had the Walmart road atlases, that's how I got to Jonesboro that day. Interviewed like that Wednesday or Thursday, got the job, and 2 weeks later I was living here in Jonesboro.
Wow.
And that was in March of 99. And we were, Ron and I were getting married in June of 99. So I got an apartment and I lived here for a few months until we got married, and then her and Hannah came down here. So that was another just chance encounter, you know, stocking tuna in the grocery store. And then, so now I'm back to fixing airplanes, and, you know, now I'm married and got a little girl, and things are going well. And I felt like God was, you know, obviously looking back, working in my life, thought that that's what I was going to do for the rest of my life. While I was at the airport in Jonesboro, I met at that time, the assistant fire chief here in Jonesboro, and he had an airplane out there, and just got to know him, you know, here and there when he would come in. And the way the fire department hiring is they do a test once a year. And at this time, it was always in November, and then you test in November, and then they put you on a list, and that list is good for a whole nother year. And they hire off of that list. So he was, you know, just kind of in passing, hey, you know, you need to come out and test, you know. And the fire department wasn't something that was on my mind. I was happy fixing airplanes, but I thought, hey, it'd be cool just to go out there and do this physical fitness thing and, you know, be a fun day. So that's what I did, and that was in November. Well, a few months later, it was March, I got another job at a bigger aircraft company at Memphis International Airport. So now I'm like, cool, I'm working my way up, you know, this is what I want to do. And really quick found out how miserable I was, because I didn't want to move Rhonda and Hannah, and at that time we had Megan. So she was 6 months old. And I was driving back and forth to Memphis every day.
Wow.
And that was a long summer. And really God kind of was working on me, like, if this is what you're going to do for the rest of your life, you know, you're going to have to live in a bigger city where there's bigger airports. And but at the same time, we really had fallen in love with Jonesboro and didn't want to move. And I didn't know what I was going to do. And about August, Rhonda called me one day on my lunch break, and she said, "You're never going to guess who called." And I said, "Who?" And she said, "The Jonesboro Fire Department." And she said, "They want you to come in for an interview." And I'd forgotten I'd even tested, because they said this was, you know, 9-10 months before. And I was like, I'll do it. So I went and I interviewed, and I ended up giving up the airplane mechanicing, and that's where, you know, and now I've been doing that for almost 24 years. But again, just by, you know, a chance encounter at, you know, at the airport, meeting the fire chief, not knowing 6 months later that I was going to be miserable at a job, you know, that at that time I loved, you know, and again, just ordered my steps. And
absolutely. And how old were you when that decision was made?
That was 2001, so I was 25.
Okay. And at that point, was Refuge in the picture? Like, how did y'all come to Refuge in this time?
No, so we had, again, you know, our church backgrounds were so different that we kind of agreed on a happy medium, we called it, you know. And we were going to church, and it was good. We had some good friends, and, you know, adapting to Jonesboro, and lots of young couples and things like that. I was happy. Rhonda wasn't. She felt like she wasn't, you know, she needed more. So she had said, "Hey, you know, I want to," and that church we were at that point was starting to go through a lot of transition and things like that. And so we started visiting other places. And then I was actually at work on shift one day, and she had went and visited Refuge, and she came to see me at lunch at the fire station. She was like, "I really love this place. You know, like, you need to come back with me." And so that's how we ended up going with her. And
what was your first impression when you came over?
I was not going to lie. I was resistant, because it was more than I had ever, you know, again, looking back at the way I had come up, you know, it was a lot, you know, I guess you could say, for me. So it was a time of adjustment, but that also is a part of who I am now. And I don't want to get ahead of your questions, but
you do whatever you want to do, sir.
Very easily, people could have ignored me or, you know, not taken the time to invest in me at that time. And I probably, you know, would have led us somewhere else. But there were, and not just a handful, there was a lot of people that, you know, took the time to stop and talk to me and check on me, and, you know, and get to know me and make me feel like family. And that's what I look at, and that's what I try to be now to others. You know, because I know how it was to be that new guy. You know, and it's so easy to make excuses and say, "Well, I don't like this place because this person's ignoring me or whatever." And I felt like we were loved from the first time we stepped in the door.
Talk about once y'all made the commitment, the Refuge people broke you down with love, which is what we do, Talk about those initial, because then probably a couple years later, Erica came into the picture, right?
Because we were, we came to Refuge in 2005, and Erica was born in 2007. So
yep. So at that point, you're in kids are in kids church.
Yeah.
And Hannah is in her junior high years, almost high school at this point, getting close.
No, she was born in 98. And
okay. So she's like almost 10.
Yeah.
Okay. So, all right. So at this point, talk about the growing life as our family in Jonesboro in Refuge, but also you and Rhonda now committing, this is our church. Talk about growing, because a lot of what you talk to in men's ministry is about being a husband, being a father. So talk about what your growth process as a man, as a husband, as a father in the Refuge process, the next 10, 15 years.
I look at Ron and I's relationship, and it's just, it sounds stereotypical, but it's awesome. I mean, she was there for me in the early tough years of our marriage when I was trying to create this career for myself. And, I felt like as a man, like this is what I have to do for my family. And, like I said, when I was working in Memphis, she had, 2 little ones, when I was gone for 12 or 14 hours a day. And, but she supported me in everything I did. And what I love is that later on, when she decided to go back to school, I was able to support her with the work schedule that I have. Some guys might make fun of me, but it doesn't bother me to admit, like, I clean the house. I cook our, I cook a lot of our meals, things like that, because with my work schedule, I'm home a lot. So it'd be silly, and it would be, I guess you could say, lazy of me to sit at home all day on my day off and expect her to come home from working, and say, when you cooking me dinner, whatever. So our relationship is so.
You're a team.
Yes, we are a strong team, and like we work together on everything, and I can't think of the last time we even, had a disagreement or an argument about something, because it just, we just work well, so well together.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What are some things that you have learned in terms of growing in this aspect that, maybe are some things that now looking back, being our men's leader, which we're about to get that in a second, what are some things right now, even before we get to the final chapter, that you would say are some key things that you learned from the man you used to be to the man you are now? Like you said, the synchronicity process that God was guiding you through. Looking back now over those 2000s into the 2010s, what are some key things that God dropped in you to develop you into the leader that you are now?
The big thing was getting rid of that chip off my shoulder and dropping the ego. And whether it's a marriage or a ministry or my guy, the guys at the fire department, everything is a team. And when you can drop those things and just do what needs to be done for the sake of the team, and I know that's kind of
there's no I in team. Yeah, absolutely.
But, I mean,
it's truth.
It's sacrifice, and it's, just building. And that was a big thing that, that God showed me, that, hey, you can't do this alone. Number one, you need, God said you need me. And then, he also placed all these people in my life, my wife, my kids, these people at Refuge, people at work, things like that, to help, and the more you try to push them away, the harder it is. And when you accept that there are people that want to love you and, that want to help you, to get through things, that was a big learning experience for me.
Talk about working as a fireman and working in the atmosphere of that and the things you see there are a lot of times I want to know, and there's a lot of times I don't want to know. But talk about your walk with the Lord on that side of it, because I know that it's a very rare breed of men that feel a calling to this. And you've openly told me multiple times that this has become a calling and a mission from the Lord for you. So talk us through, as much as you feel comfortable sharing, but talk us through the areas of your life that God has touched and changed and grown in you to do this as often as a job now that you do.
I have made him a part of everything, and this is not a curse. There are some, I mean, I work with some amazing guys, and not all of them are in church, but me personally, I don't know how I could do it without God. Because, and I'm not trying to sound dramatic. I mean, it's not like the movies or TV, you know, where, you know, a lot of that is
Right.
dramatized a lot, but there are incidents, and there have been instances over the years where, you know, I've just had to really have long conversation with God and, you know, have him help me through things, because there are things you see and things that wear on you. And, so yeah, like I said, I don't know how I could do it without him.
And when it comes to that, has God, with every, as we've talked about all the time at Refuge, if God puts you in a place, he wants you to produce and multiply in that place. Talk about as a fireman, but also all the other areas of ministry that you do. And okay, before we get to that, talk about the process that came to you becoming our men's leader here at Refuge. Talk about the steps in the prayer process of that, because that's a fun story.
Yeah, I fought that for a long time because I'm very much I'll help with anything. I'll volunteer for anything. But the thought of being the point man or the leader, I guess that word leader just, I don't want to say scared me, but it scared me, you know, like I'm more I don't like telling people what to do, or, you know, I would just, I just want to do it, you know, and I just want to be part of the team. And
Yeah.
So I fought that for a long time. And then when I went through lead team, you know, God was pulling at me more and more, and really just, again, showing me like, hey, look back at, you know, all the people that invested in you, and how it's time for you to invest in others.
Yeah.
And it's kind of flowed because of the past year or two that I've, you know, started with the men's ministry, and now with Multiply. I mean, Multiply falls right into
Absolutely.
You know, everything that I think about, you know, not only men's ministry as a whole, you know, like it's just fallen into place.
Can you share one or two stories that are an example of men's ministry, husband, father, fireman, where you see God multiplying in your life?
So I'm not going to lie, men's ministry has been tough. I'm in it for the long haul, but, you know,
I think it's one of the hardest ministries in the world.
it is. And it's not a criticism on guys. Guys feel busy and they feel obligated to a lot of things, and it's hard to, you know, show up at things and define, you know, those interests that different guys are interested in. So
Right.
that's been a struggle, but, I mean, I'm now I'm not only a dad, but I'm also a father-in-law. My two older daughters are married.
You're a grandfather now.
I'm a grandfather, so that's a whole new task that, you know, God has given me, and again, showing these guys who are now married to my daughter how I still treat my wife, and you know, example of that, and how to be a dad, you know, because even though my girls are older and grown and, you know, married, like, they're still my little girls, so you know, I still treat them like that, and you know. And there's little things that my son-in-laws will say, or my daughters will say, you know, that reassure me that, okay, this is, you know, your examples are working. You know, like, so that's a big area that I've seen. I mean, I can't think of just one specific thing. It's just been as a whole.
Yeah. Talk to me as we wrap this up and before we bring this in for a landing. When you look around, not just our region, our state, our country, but our world, there's a need for men to step up and be men. and not just be men, like you said, not just men that have egos or this obligation to be men, but that are men after God's own heart. So talk about maybe what God has been showing you and teaching you to then in turn reproduce that into the men that you can influence everywhere you go to be the men that God's created them to be.
Just be genuine. When the Holy Spirit takes over and, and becomes part of your life, like I said, he guides those steps, and he's going to show you where to go and what to do. And again, drop the ego, drop the chip, just follow him. And he's going to just I look at my own life and how amazing it's been, and all the, opportunities I've had and the experiences I've had, the people that have loved on me and I've, have helped me to grow. Like when you learn to accept that and just really just take it all in, and shows you how amazing God is and how much further he's going to take you. And, that's just what I want to see. Kind of like when you see somebody that, the switch comes on, and they really just, and I've seen it with some of our younger guys at church and things like that. I'm seeing them, without naming names, I've just seen that light flick here the past year or two with a couple, and it's just it's so cool to see, and they've gone from kids that I had when I was in youth, and now they're husbands and fathers, and they're growing, and their lives are not duplicating mine, but they're multiplying. And that's just an awesome thing to see.
Last question from me. What's something that we can do as pastors, as leaders, as churches to create a culture where men want to be there? Because that's the biggest headache in the 21st century, is getting men to come back to church. So what are some things that you've seen? If men experience this or encounter this, there's a better chance you'll see them again.
That's a good question, because that's a question that I've had, that's one of my big things. Like, what can I be doing, as a leader, and, what can I be asking, pastors to do? And I don't know what the magic formula is.
I don't think there is one.
No. I've learned, and I've talked to pastor about this. I think guys they're task oriented. If you have things that need to be done, and you have teams that need to do things, they'll show up. But then there's other things that you just and
they'll come for food.
They come for food. But if you ask them to sit down around a table and
pour your heart out
and discuss their feelings, it's hard. It's hard for me to sit here right here.
I'm very proud of you. I'm very proud of you, sir. Absolutely. Is there anything that lingering in your spirit that you feel would be good to share to anybody who hears this about what you do or about what your passion is?
Again, I keep saying it, but just allow God to lead you, and know that even those small encounters, those chance encounters, or those wherever he puts you is where he has led you. And
that's good.
While it may not make sense right then, there's going to be a reason for that, and it's going to guide you, to even higher mountains, So
I love that. I love it. All right, well, before I let you go, I know you just came off a bunch of storms we had to deal with, but we're going to let the thunder roll one more time, because it's time for what I call the lightning round.
All right.
So here's what I'm doing. I'm going to read off 20 comparisons. You just shoot from your gut. Don't overthink it. Which of the two you're going to choose and say it. You ready?
All right.
Here we go. Number 1, savory or sweet?
Sweet.
Number 2, mountains or the beach?
Mountains.
Number 3, spring or the fall?
Spring.
Number 4, Apple or Microsoft?
Apple.
Number 5, dine in or drive through?
Dine in.
Number 6, ice cream goes in a cup or a cone?
Cone.
Number 7, vacation or staycation?
I do vacation.
All right. Number 8, toilet paper rolls under or over?
Over.
Thank you. Number 9, you want your coffee iced or hot?
Hot.
Number 10, early bird or night owl?
Early.
Number 11.
Go to bed by 9 o'clock.
Number 11, summer or the winter?
Both.
You can have one both. Number 12, would you rather read a book or watch a movie?
So I like to read the book and then watch the movie about the book.
That's a good answer. Number 13, baseball or basketball?
Baseball.
Go Reds. No, go Cardinals. My bad.
No.
I keep saying Redbirds. Go Red. Go Cardinals.
There's something wrong with this earphones. I keep hearing Cardinals, but you should be saying Cubs, right?
Oh, that's right. That's right. I keep forgetting. You just placate all the Cardinals fans who live here. Number 14, listen to music or listen to a podcast?
Music.
All right. Number 15, football or soccer?
Football.
Number 16, send the text or make the phone call?
Text.
Number 17, outdoor grill or indoor kitchen? You're a master in both.
Outdoor grill.
All right. Number 18, Jimmy Johnson or Jeff Gordon?
Dale Earnhardt.
He's good at option C. Number 19, go fishing or go hunting?
Fishing.
Number 20, Talladega or Daytona?
Ooh. And I've been to both, and I love them both. I'd have to say I haven't been to and actually I haven't had the experience of a race at Daytona, but I have at Talladega, so I'll go with Talladega for that.
I'm a Bama boy, and I'm so happy to hear you say that.
But Daytona, I was there for training this past year, and it is a beautiful track. I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, we didn't get to spend a lot of time talking about that. You also help with NASCAR as being part of the fire chief.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and we got to have you back on. I know Pastor wants to have you back on and do some stories like that. So I'd love to hear you guys talk about it. Bill, appreciate you, sir.
Appreciate you, man.
Thank you for your time. All right, everybody, make sure you hit him up when you come to Refuge. Men, this is a man you want to be around. When he walks in the room changes. You want to be around Bill. So thank you, everybody. We'll see y'all next time on the Refuge Church podcast.